Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker. Thanks so much for joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it very much. And you know, it's one of those things that in our area, when we find something that works, we want to look at what was the history and what did people used to do and how is it that it's still working. Well, I'm really excited to have with us Judge Bethancourt. Judge, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you very much for having me today.
We appreciate
Good
it.
to be here.
Yeah, and so, you know, people kind of see the news and they read things and they think, oh, two of our judges were awarded something, and quite frankly, there's been no award, but there's been this program that's been really unique for many, many years, and you and Jason DeGate are both involved in it. But let's talk a little bit about what Judges in the Classroom is and kind of how it started.
Yes, okay. It's called Judges in the Classroom program. So essentially it began officially more than 20 years ago by a wonderful judge who's now retired, Benjamin Jones, out of Monroe. Wonderful guy. So he thought it would be a good idea for judges, regular district court judges or any judge, to go into classrooms to teach the students, to help the teachers, teach the kids about the laws, about government, and about the consequences of breaking the law. And so he actually began the program, as I said, more than 20 years ago. And he actually not wrote a book, but came up with a book, a binder actually, Judges in the Classroom binder. So he compiled all the information that you need to go into a classroom, lesson plans, handouts, projects, and so forth. And he made a booklet and made it available to judges more than 20 years ago. And so that's how the program actually started. And so it was purely a word of mouth. It's all volunteer. We don't get paid extra for this. But it's a good program. Judges like to do it. And so I happen to be president of the Louisiana Board of Civic Education in Louisiana at the anniversary of the 20th anniversary of this conception, the book. And so I was able to take the book, update it, and for the 20th edition, we made it available in hard copy, but also online.
Oh, wow.
You know, so now it's on the Supreme Court website. It's available to anybody that really wants to look at it. And it has lesson plans and, as I said, handouts and tests and so forth.
Right.
So it's a very good program. So got to give a lot of kudos to Judge Ben Jones. He's a wonderful judge. He's retired up in Monroe.
Right.
Great guy.
But it goes right into some of your history and what kind of where you started being in education.
Yes, you know, I have an education degree and I love teaching. And so when I became a judge, I wanted to make it my business to try to go into the schools to educate students on two different topics. Number one, the evils of breaking the law. Okay, the consequences.
Sure.
But equally as important, to actually teach them the law. Basic stuff. 3 branches of government, for example.
Right.
Jury trials and jury duty, to supplement what the teachers teach in the textbooks. Right. To go in there and then not only that, but a big component of this is actually bringing students into the courtrooms.
Right.
And we do that routinely. I just told you before we went on the air. I had about 200 students last week in my courtroom for 2 days.
Wow.
Watching the proceedings. And then as we have them in the courtrooms, we explain what they're seeing, what's going on, so that they read about it, they know somewhat about trials and about the branches of government, but how do they work and how do they work together? And so when they see it for real, they go, that's why there's an executive branch, a legislative branch, a judicial branch. This is what each branch does, that sort of thing.
Right, and it gives them that large scale, this is why we do what we do.
Exactly.
This is the history of what's there and how we're doing it. And so what a wonderful way to kind of echo that, because children learn, 3 different ways. They learn visually, they learn auditory, but they also learn kinesthetically. And so for them to physically be present there, the other thing is they get to watch someone who's on trial.
And that's really true.
And see them come
It's
in.
real. So they're used to TV, movies, internet. So, for example, last week, and we didn't know what cases were coming. We knew what kind of cases. I had criminal misdemeanor week. So I knew these people that were coming into court for business had criminal matters. But we didn't know which what was coming up. It's
Right.
it's whatever you're going to have. That's what a judge sees. You don't
Right,
know
that's
what you're
exactly
going to get
right.
that day.
Yeah.
And so that's what they got to see: real citizens that are facing, well, in this case, misdemeanor matters.
Right.
Speeding, DWI first, DWI second, those kinds of things. It becomes very real. And they saw people pleading guilty, and then me going through the motions of how do we sentence someone on a DWI first, for example. All right, we have to go through a procedure. So we explained the procedures, and they saw it firsthand. Wow, you got to go through all that, and this is a sentence on a DWI first. You read about it, but becomes very, very real.
Yeah,
Very
the,
real.
the hearsay that they may hear that, oh, Uncle so-and-so or Aunt so-and-so got a DWI, that means one thing. But walking in and seeing that person before the judge, coming in through that process.
Makes
the
it
legal
real.
process.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and it just drives those points home to them.
And they're always amazed. And the teachers tell me when they get back, well, when they get on the bus after they start talking about the cases that they saw, and it's amazing. And it flows through the next day in class. They bring it. They keep talking about what they saw and what they learned.
Right.
And that they were surprised about this, and did you see that? And they catch some things that I wouldn't even notice because I've been doing this for so long.
Right,
Little
some of
things.
the things
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
maybe you missed.
Yeah.
And this is just a wonderful idea for you guys to really, for something that started 20 years ago, and you were able to update it to here and where we are now. Let's talk a little bit about how the program maybe has changed a little bit, maybe with COVID and where things are through it.
Okay, well, interesting you should mention it that way. So when Chief Justice Weimer became Chief Justice January 1st of 2021, so just a year ago, a little over a year ago,
Right.
he too was a teacher before he became a judge. He loved teaching. He would, as a judge too, he would go into the classrooms. So
Right.
he participated in this program.
Right.
Well, as Chief Justice of the Louisiana Supreme Court, he became justice at midnight, Chief Justice at midnight on January 1st.
Okay.
He shot an email to every judge in Louisiana at 8 o'clock that morning,
Wow.
New Year's Day. And the only thing addressed in that letter from the Chief Justice was the judges in the classroom program. He urged all judges in Louisiana to go into the classrooms, have the classrooms, have the students go into their courtrooms to teach government, teach civics, teach the consequences of their actions.
Right.
Firm believer. So he wanted to bring it to the next level. And so after that, he began a task force. And he invited me to be on that task force and local Judge Jason DeGate.
Right.
And so the two of us are on that task force. And the purpose of the task force is to, as I said, bring this program to a higher level.
Right.
To try to get all judges around the state to participate more.
Right.
Now, you mentioned COVID, and you mentioned, what I'll mention, the hurricane.
Right,
So
right.
we had a few obstacles, all right? So largely, schools have been kind of closed to extraneous people, to protect the kids. And so throughout the state, we kind of did a little different. So we participated by Zoom in
Okay.
some classrooms.
Okay.
And so we kept the program going.
Right.
And for the hurricane, so I thought it would be a great idea after the hurricane, because as you know, our parish, I don't have to tell you, and the citizens, largely destroyed.
Devastated.
People have to understand government still goes on. The three branches of government still carry on from during the storm, after the storm, still goes on.
Right.
So I wanted to take that opportunity to show students, hey, what happens, how does government run in an emergency situation?
Right.
So I gathered about 20 students about a week or so after the storm, gathered them up voluntarily, and they met me at the courthouse, and I showed them the damage of the courthouse. And then I brought them to what was really the seat of government, the sheriff's motor pool. The sheriff had made a compound, kind of a little mini city where his motor pool is. And he actually had facilitated us in having some temporary jail cells. What he did was got containers, and he got this right away. This was not like weeks after. Our sheriff immediately hit the ground and then made government function.
Right.
He got two containers, made them into cells. They were air conditioned. They were safe, and we had court in the corridor of one of his buildings, literally an entryway. That's where we had court. So I brought these kids and explained to them the whole process. Just because we have a catastrophe, and it was a catastrophe.
Oh, absolutely.
Government doesn't shut down.
Right.
Government keeps on going. We found a way to, and so I showed students and I brought them with me. They were like, wow, 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 you know.
Right.
And then you got to feed the government workers.
Right.
And you got and because if you don't take care of them, they can't take care of others, and you know, medically take care. It goes on and on and on. So that was kind of interesting. It was eye opening for the students.
Well, I think I would have been amazed at that. And it takes that kind of outside the box thinking sometimes, where I think very often people think about government or they think about how the judicial system works, and they think it's so finite and so very black and white, and it's not.
No, it's not.
We've still got to find a way to address things. I love that. It's just another example of what Sheriff Tim Saunier has been able to do
Absolutely.
in office.
Yeah, and as I said, I mean, he did this immediately. It was no waiting around. I remember there was a yard next to his motor pool. It was just tall grass. That became, in 2 days, a shelled parking lot that was used to park military vehicles on, to house these cells, and he used that property just like that. He had to get shells and rocks. I mean, that was immediate.
Right. And we know how difficult it was to get anything. I mean, parents didn't have electricity at the time.
Exactly. Right.
You know?
It was tough. Very
And so
tough.
just being able to kind of get those things
And I was
going.
impressed, and the students were too, that, you know, you don't think of it. So to get help to the people, you need people to do that, government workers. And so to get government workers, you got to take care of them. Okay? So if you don't take care of your government workers, your employees and the government,
Right.
you do no good to the citizens. So yes, there was a place for them to eat, shower, get some fresh clothes, even had a laundromat for them, because they had to function to go
Correct.
out to the public.
Right.
All right. And
And I only know a small piece of this. One of the people that works in IT for the parish, she was just describing to me soon after the storm how wonderful it was to be able to do their jobs, to get all of that. Imagine, you know, all of the way that it impacts things all the way down to information technology about getting those things rolling, and all the support that was there. So you really echo the importance of that, but I'm glad y'all were able to do that as well.
you know, then a lot of agencies got together, you know, not just the sheriff's
And
office,
right, and did
but a
it
lot
together.
of agencies pulled together and did, you know, citizens donated,
Right.
and that was fantastic.
And some of the remarkable things that were done, not only in the formation of the program, but even during difficult times. And it's a great point that you bring up. We can't stop. It's got to keep moving, and y'all found some real creative ways. But we only move forward with these kinds of programs when we have lots of people involved. And I know that you and Jason DeGate here, another one of our local judges, has been involved in that. But y'all are being a part of moving the program forward and where we're going with that.
And we're happy to do so. So the program itself is, as I said, the Chief Justice has made it very clear to all judges that he would like for them to participate. Mm-hmm. You know, judges, we are very busy, all right? And to participate in a program like this and to do this, we don't get paid any extra. We don't get anything for it.
Right.
But I got to tell you, it is mentally rewarding.
Oh.
It is absolutely therapy. When you go into a classroom with young kids, and I got to tell you, I've had no bad experience whatsoever, and I've seen 20,000 kids in the last 20 years.
Over
all right?
1,000 kids a year. It's remarkable.
It's all positive. I got to tell you, the students love it, the teachers love it, the parents that come, they love. They're in awe. And I got to tell you, we do this from K through 12. Well, actually through 12. I would say even we've had some of our colleges.
Right.
students
Nichols has
come.
been involved in that, right?
Yeah,
Fletcher?
and we do age-appropriate programs.
Right.
Even for kindergarten, believe it or not. First
Yeah.
grade, we do it.
Well, look, kindergartners
That's right.
need to know you
Yep.
can't steal.
Yep. Well,
right?
absolutely.
You know?
And so, as I said, it's good for the judge and it's good for the participants. Now, Justice Weimer wants us all the judges to do so. We're on this task force, and we meet every month. As a matter of fact, we meet tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:30, 8 o'clock, with 1 hour meeting by Zoom. We have judges all over the state that are on this task force.
Right.
And we meet every month and to see, where we stand, what are we doing. So the justice was able to get other entities on board with this program,
Okay.
including the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education of Louisiana.
Wow.
Department of Education, the legislature, the Senate, and the House of Representatives.
Right.
All right, superintendents of education throughout the state. So we're all working together, all right, for as I said, two main focus. Number one, teach kids the consequences of their actions.
Right.
All right, don't do bad things, don't break the law. And on the other side is teach civics, teach
Right.
the law.
This is the law, so you
Absolutely.
understand it
And incidentally-
and why it's written, so you can don't break it.
I was president of the Louisiana Center for Civic and Legal Education for a few years, and still on the board. And what we did was we have an ACE program, ACE, Adult Civics Education,
Right.
because we have found that some of our adults have forgotten the mechanics.
Right.
The mechanics. How does, for example, simple things, jury duty. They know that they're going to get a notice, but they don't exactly understand the whole. I'm just using that one
Right.
little tiny thing as an
Small
example.
process.
So we have an adult program as well. So we go into libraries, Rotary, Lions Clubs, whatever.
Whomever it
and,
may
and
be,
talk about
and
civics
educate.
in that vein.
But you and Jason were here, and you were honored, not necessarily given an award, but honored. Tell us about how you and Jason were honored. We're going to put his picture up since he couldn't join us today,
Absolutely,
but
yeah.
what y'all
So-
were honored with.
Every year, the governor gives the State of the State address to the joint session of the Louisiana legislature at the very beginning of the legislative session. And then the next day, the Chief Justice gives the State of the Judiciary
Okay.
address to the joint session of the Louisiana legislature.
Gotcha.
And Justice Weimer invited Judge DeGate and me and other judges to be present because he was going to mention the judges in the classroom program,
Right.
which he did. And so he mentioned both Jason and I in that address, in that speech. And so he acknowledged the program, he acknowledged us, and then the legislature did too. So they stood up and applauded. So that was very nice to be recognized in that way.
Well, and I want to say thank you for 20 years of being dedicated to that program, 20 years of serving as a judge, and now here kind of recognizing another one of these younger judges, if you will, kind of following in those footsteps. And it's nice to have you guys honored that way for Supreme Court chiefs to do that.
Well, you'd be surprised how many adults now remember when they came to Judge Randy's courtroom when they were in the third grade.
Yeah, yeah.
They're much older now, but they'll never forget probably when they came to the courtroom. First of all, it's a field trip. You're out the classroom. Anything is
Right.
better than being in the
Sure,
classroom
absolutely.
as a kid.
Like a bad day fishing.
And so, but we make it fun. So this is not, we don't sit there with a pad in hand and reading a lecture. No, we actually hands-on show you what really goes on.
Right.
So it's eye-opening, it's active. As you said, different forms of learning.
Right.
We'll bring them as
Right.
part of they'll sit next to me, they'll sit with the attorneys and
Oh,
all the kids.
wow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I
And
love
so
it.
We do a lot of interactive stuff like that. And as I said, they're right there. Courtrooms are pretty small in Terrebonne Parish.
Right,
Very
right,
intimate.
right.
So it's not like they're far away. They're right there. So they're sitting
they
right
feel
in
a
front of
part of it.
the other people. So it's pretty cool.
And look, for them to be able to talk about it on the way home, for them to be able to talk about it in school the next day, you know you're making an impact. We appreciate the impact that you're making. Got about 30 seconds
I
left,
wanted
Judge.
to invite all teachers from K through 12 or even the colleges here. Call any of the judges, any judge.
Right.
We're happy to come to you or have your class come to us.
Or both.
Right? Yeah, or both, absolutely. So if we don't call you, you can call us.
Right.
We're easy to get to, and we want to do this. So
Right.
it is somewhat inconvenient for a teacher to interrupt their class plans to do this.
right.
But it is, as I said, it's worth it, I think.
Right. And you've got all the information right there for them. And with it.
Absolutely, yes,
Judge,
sir.
I can't thank you enough for coming on.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it very much.
Thank you for having
All
me.
right, that will do it for this particular segment of Bayou Time. Don't go anywhere. A lot more local programming when we continue.